Hey everyone, welcome to the Oakwood Kids Emergency Procedure and Policy video. We have included a new step, and so this is a brand new video for all of our volunteers to watch. So if you are watching this, that means that you want to keep our kids, our ministry, and our church as safe as possible. So thank you for taking the time to watch this video and to keep our kiddos and our families safe. So we have a presentation to go along with this video. And so I'm going to go ahead and get that ready to go. And I will, just one second, I will hit play there. There we go. All right, and so this comes from the standard response protocol, and it does revolve around this poster that I'm sure you have seen go around. Now we are adding something to the standard response protocol. It's an extended version that they have, so it's not a part of their official. So you will only see 4 icons. We'll talk about the 5th at the very end. But the reason why we are switching to the standard response protocol, and we have been using this for over a year now, is because it's a shared lexicon, meaning that a lot of people are using the same vocabulary to all be on the same page. So we're sharing this with first responders, with students, with staff, and with parents. So everybody knows what is going on by using the standard response protocol. Our schools in the area are using this, and so this isn't super new to our folks. So it does revolve around these four actions: lock out, lock down, evacuate, shelter, and then we're adding hold. And we'll talk about that at the end. Now, each action is followed by a directive, and so as we give an action, we will tell you what to do during that action. So the first one is lock out, secure the perimeter; lock down, locks lights out of sight; evacuate to a location; and shelter for a hazard using a safety strategy, and we'll talk about that. And of course, the 5th one is hold in your classroom. Hold in your classroom. Now, every action does have a specific instruction. How will you know that we are in some kind of emergency procedure? Our info counter has bullhorns that we will pull and use those to let you know. Our building does not have a central PA system of sorts, so we will use those bullhorns to let you know. So let's go ahead and dive in and talk about this first one, and that's lock out, secure the perimeter. Lock out, secure the perimeter. Why would we be in a lockout? That basically means that something dangerous is outside of the church that we don't want to come into the church. And so that might be a criminal activity in the area, that might be some civil unrest, or that might even be a dangerous animal on the playground, all right? And so what happens? Basically, we want no one in or out of the church at that time. So what are the students to do? Students are to get inside of the building. They are to not let anyone in or out of the building, and they are supposed to just business as usual. Teachers should bring everyone inside. If we have some kiddos out on the playground or in another area, they are to lock the door or at least close the outside doors. Our staff and security team are responsible for locking those doors, since our volunteers, of course, will not have any keys on them. We're asking teachers to just increase their situational awareness, take attendance and note the time, but then also it's business as usual for you guys. And so that is a lock out. All right, so we want there is something dangerous outside of the building that we do not want to come in, and so we are locking that out. Our next one is lock down, locks lights out of sight. Lock down, locks lights out of sight. Why would we have a lockdown? That might mean that there's some crazy person that's in the building, or maybe there's something worse. There is a threat inside of the building that we don't want to come into the children's building. And so what are our kids to do in a lockdown? Our students are to stay out of sight of the corridor window, which basically means that if they can see the window, that means someone poking in or trying to look through the window can see them. So we want our kids to stay up against that closest wall, away from that window. They're to be silent, of course, and we want to make sure that no one opens the doors for anyone. Our security team, our staff will run around both downstairs and upstairs to make sure that all of our classroom doors are locked, and you will know that a lockdown is over when someone who has keys will unlock the door and walk in the building. So don't open the door for anyone in any circumstance. They will come in. So what are teachers to do? Teachers are to lock and close the classroom door. For preschool, the bottom half of those Dutch doors stay locked all the time. And so all preschool needs to do is just pull that top half of that Dutch door closed, push that latch down, and then we're also asking our preschool team to go either into the closet or the bathroom that adjoin those two classes together. So pick one of those, but we want you to be behind two sets of doors because it is a little more, it's more difficult for them to stay quiet. So hopefully that double sense of security will help you guys in that way. Turn out the lights and then leave the corridor window uncovered so that the security team or police officers can see inside that there is not a threat inside the classroom. And then please do not slide anything under the door, right? If you slide something under the door, then unfortunately, if the threat knows that there's somebody inside that classroom, so we don't want that to happen. So don't slide anything under the door. Make sure, again, silence is key in a lockdown. So just try to keep your kids as quiet as possible. And then, of course, always, always, always take attendance and note the time there. That's lockdown. So if you're outside, you want to make sure that you find the least visible spot that someone can see you, and of course stay as low to the ground as possible if you are outside during a lockdown and you do not feel like it is safe to make it inside of the building. And also, we are making it a policy that when the fire alarm sounds, that we do not initially evacuate the building, okay? Do not proceed with an action in emergency response until you have been told to do that. So what we don't want is for the threat to pull a fire alarm for our folks to evacuate and it not actually be a fire alarm. So please wait for us to give the correct action and directive to actually evacuate out of the building. So please do not leave during a fire alarm. Stay in the class until we tell you to. And so let's talk about our next one. It is evacuate to a location, evacuate to a location. So in the event of a fire drill, we would say evacuate out of the building, evacuate out of the building. Now, if you're on the front side of the children's building, you'll go down through the main stairs or out through those main doors in the children's building. From the back half, you'll make yourself back down the back half of the stairwell and out those back doors, and then you'll make your way over to the big dumpster that's over by the children's or the student pavilion. Now, if you have no clue if you're on the front half or the back half, in every classroom right by the door, right above where you will find this emergency packet that we will talk about in just a few minutes, there will be a map that tells you your evacuation route. So please, if you're not in a class that you're familiar with, let that be one of the first things you do is check your emergency route in case of an evacuation. So what are students to do in an evacuation? They're to leave their stuff behind, listen for directions, and teachers, we want to make sure that y'all take attendance at the evacuation area. I'm going to talk about this packet, but this is where this okay and help card really comes in and is key during an evacuation. Sometimes we might have a police evacuation, and that's going to be a little different, but basically we just want to listen to the police, right? Anything that they say, we want to obey. So students, keep your hands visible. Leave your stuff behind, and don't be surprised if they're loud. They just want to command the situation. Teachers, grab your attendance sheet, bring your old school brick cell phone, and then also, again, evacuation, take attendance, please. That's always the key there. Now, rooms 101 through 107 downstairs, you guys have evacuation beds. And so in case of an evacuation, you're going to pile your kids into those beds and just wheel them out. That's going to make it way easier for you to evacuate in case of an emergency. Next, we have shelter for a hazard using a safety strategy. Now, we're not actually going to say all of that. We're going to tell you what the hazard is and then what to do. So hazard is basically a danger or risk that we have, and the safety strategy is the action or plan to remain safe. So if a tornado was coming, we would say, tornado, get to a shelter. So upstairs, we're going to have all of our kiddos upstairs go downstairs to the preschool treehouse, which is their large group meeting space. Downstairs, if you are an outside classroom, if you have a window, you're going to make your way to an inside classroom in case of a tornado or a hurricane or something like that. an earthquake, we would drop cover and hold. A tsunami, as crazy as it sounds, we just want you to be prepared, is to get to high ground. And I kid you not, the CDC has a legit zombie attack plan. So get a kit, make a plan, be prepared, all of that crazy stuff. All right. During a hazard, you want to always just listen for instructions. We are going to communicate with you guys and let you know what to do and when to do it. All right. And then, of course, take attendance, teachers, whenever possible there. Now, our church has added hold to our standard response protocol. All right. Again, this isn't official, but it is something that we want to make you aware of. And we would say, hold in your classroom, hold in your classroom is what the info counter volunteers would say. Why would we do that? Basically, the halls need to be kept clear, right? Maybe we have a child that is misplaced, or maybe Pastor Jody left one of his ninja stars on the ground and it's dangerous and he wants to find it real quick. So we would make sure to keep all of the hallways clear for that. So what are the kids to do in this situation? Just remain in the classroom until everything is clear. This is very easy for our kiddos. For teachers, close the door. You can't lock the door, but just close it would be great. And this is key that you take attendance immediately, right? And so if you have all your kids, just go through that rule sheet and you're good to go there. If you've picked up a kid, that's when you would come, like, kind of hang your head outside and say, hey, I have an extra kid here that I didn't have earlier. And then remain in the classroom until the all clear. But for the most part, for most of us, that's going to, a hold is just going to mean business as usual there. Again, these are our 4 actions that are official. Of course, 5. So lock out, lock down, evacuate, shelter, and hold. Remember that our church has one more action, hold in your classroom. All right, last slide on this presentation, it just says peace. It does not mean to be in a place where there is no noise, trouble, or hard work. It means to be in the midst of those things and still be calm in your heart. Wow. If anything, if there's a quote that kind of sums up children's ministry, I think this would be one of the top runners for that. We know what it means to be kind of in the midst of chaos, but to be calm in our hearts in those situations. And so when we have an emergency situation, remember that we have the peace that surpasses all understanding as believers in Jesus Christ. And so there's no reason to worry. There's no reason to fret, right? We are now prepared to handle these situations and know that we have the peace of God to be with us, to stay calm in our hearts. All right, you guys, let's wrap that up. And I am going to now just kind of share with you what's in this packet here. So if you've watched this video before, it is important that you check out your packet because we have a new poster here. Again, these are the 4 that we know of. Hold is what we have added. All right, and so you can find out what to do in a hold. So in case you've watched this video once and you've forgotten, you can grab this packet right here, and this will tell you what to do as a reminder. So please read this. Also, what we have in our packet are sticky notes just to take notes on. Of course, there's a pen in there for you to use with that. We do include blank roll sheets. However, more often than not, when you're in a ministry situation, whether it's a Sunday or a Wednesday or something like that, you are going to have a roll sheet already with you that hopefully you have been checking kids off if they've been coming, even maybe written their name tag numbers on there too. So I would use that before this, but if you're in some kind of special event situation where you don't have that, you can use that. Now, I talked about this card before, but this is important to use in an evacuation. So we've made the call, evacuate out of the building, you've walked your class down, you're outside, you're by that dumpster, and you've looked through. If all of your kids are there and you haven't picked up any kids, boom, throw out this OK card, right? This indicates to the staff and to the security team that we know that everything's good to go for your class. If you go through your roll and you realize, there's a kid that's not with my class, or I seem to have picked up another kid, that's when you flip over to this help side, and someone from our staff or security team will come and see what's going on, how we can help you key is that you would stay with your kids there. All right. That's everything that's in your packet. That's everything that we have for our standard response protocol. Thank you again so much for taking the time to watch this video and to keep our kids safe. It's a big priority that we have here at Oakwood Kids. And so this just only helps us even more effectively teach and preach the gospel to these kiddos. So thank you so much for being a part. And I hope you guys have a great rest of the day. Thank you so much. Bye.